All right, Bernie Sanders speaking in Oregon right now. Does this look like a candidate who's quitting the race? Jane Sanders, his wife, telling me a little earlier, it doesn't look like that to her either, because he's not quitting anything.
Well, we may be spoiling their day, but we're not spoiling the race. The fact is that there are very different visions for America between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And what we need to do is let the voters in every state, 10 states still haven't voted, have the opportunity to support the candidate of their choice and support the agenda they want the nation to follow. I mean, Bernie is completely against fracking, very concerned about climate change. Secretary Clinton has been very supportive of fracking, even going to Europe as secretary to really push fracking. Bernie believes in a $15 minimum wage so that nobody works 40 hours a week and lives in poverty. Secretary Clinton will only go as far as 12 for the federal minimum wage. There are a lot of differences, and we need to, in a democracy, express them. And we're going to do that in every state in the union, including the largest state that hasn't voted and won't vote until June 7th.
You're talking about California. You know, you do have to wonder, too, whether it's just the way the party system goes. But you cut to the core, maybe even the way your race, your husband's race, is covered. You were recently on MSNBC where you said even if he had a string of wins, like 8 in a row, or he's won states by landslide victories, nobody in the media, certainly not the New York Times, has ever said he has a chance to win. So no matter how well he does, even getting recently 7 or 8 wins in a row, it's always like nothing. What do you think of that?
Well, that's true. The mainstream media, for a number of months, we'd see polls against all the Republican candidates, but Secretary Clinton being the only Democrat mentioned. Finally, they started to put Bernie in, and it was very clear to people as we did that, and we hope that you will continue to do that as time goes on. You can see that he is winning the general election by a lot larger margin than Hillary Clinton.
I should point out, by the way, that we do show those polls every day.
You do.
Showing the Republicans pitted against your husband as well as Hillary Clinton. But you're right, it's gotten a lot of, you know, of your husband's backers, your backers, upset. Tim Robbins, the actor, fired off a tweet saying this election is being stolen, and his hashtag was voter fraud. What do you think of that?
Well, I haven't seen what he had written, but I know that we hear a lot from a lot of people that they're concerned about all the voter irregularities that have occurred in a number of states. I mean, in New York, 126,000 people were just taken off the rolls, and they couldn't vote. 3 million independents couldn't vote, not because of any irregularity, just because that's the process, and you had to decide in October whether you wanted to be a Democrat.
Do you ever, though, find the whole system, though, makes you think about if Sanders folks have been treated sort of like Rodney Dangerfield, that they're not getting the respect?
No.
But because think of that, if you think about it, though, a third who were recently polled of Sanders supporters say that they would have a hard time supporting Hillary Clinton. I'm sure that doesn't mean they'll jump to Donald Trump, but they might not vote at all in November. What do you think of that?
Well, this race is all about systemic change, and that includes the electoral system in terms of how it's set up and how it's carried out. It's also about voter participation. We are bringing millions, Bernie is bringing millions of people into the process. First-time voters and people who turned away. You know, Neil, people turn away from politics and say, I'm done with this. They're coming back. And the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, in some cases, is shutting the door on those people and saying, thanks, but no thanks. You don't need to vote right now. To ask them later to go and vote for another candidate when they've been working for a year on this candidate's campaign, they say, well, wait, you didn't even give me a chance to vote for my candidate to begin with. So it's difficult, but one of the things that Bernie says very clearly is, yeah, there's a lot of differences. There are very strong differences between Secretary Clinton and Bernie, but there's many, many, many more differences between the Democrats and the Republicans, as you know.
So you would personally reach out to those, if your husband doesn't take the nomination, say, well, let's not be crybabies about it. Let's rally around. If it's Hillary Clinton, it's Hillary Clinton.
Well, what I would do is really focus on the issues. And actually, it would be Secretary Clinton trying to get people's votes. We can't tell our supporters what to do. We can say, and he has done all along, lead by example. But what we would also be doing is asking her to reach out and say, yes, I support a $15 minimum wage. Yes, I'm going to lift the cap on Social Security. I'm not going to raise the Social Security age. A lot of the things that Bernie is fighting for, we're going to keep fighting for,
so
regardless
you're not in
of
that
the
camp.
outcome.
There's some in her camp, as you know, Ms. Sanders, who say, well, if he drives us, your husband, too far to the left, we're going to have a devil of a time in a general election. You say what to that?
I say that that has been the problem with the Democratic Party for a very long time. The Democrats veer to the left during the primary, and then they go to the center during the general. And then when they're elected, they're more centrist. I'm not talking about President Obama. I'm talking about the last 30 years. The same thing with the Republicans. The Republicans go to the right during the primary, then they go to the center. You know, Neil, you've known Bernie for years. He stands where he stands, and he stands there whether it's a primary or an election or a year that he's just serving the people. So it is a problem that people think that. If you look at today and see that he has gotten almost 10 million votes, how she needs to get those votes.
Put him on the ticket.
They're more important than the centrist.
You think he should be put on the ticket?
I don't know. We haven't even thought about that. We're looking at him being the president and then him deciding who should be on the ticket with him.
But if that doesn't happen?
He's running for president. We haven't even had that discussion, Neil. I'll let you know when we do.
I suspect Ms. Sanders is not a huge fan of Donald Trump, but he did say something I want to get your reaction to, if you'll indulge me, talking about Hillary Clinton and her playing, quote-unquote, the woman card. Frankly, this is quoting him, if Hillary were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote. The only thing she's got going for her is the woman's card. What did you make of that?
I think that he's just stepping on himself for his election. He just keeps on insulting women. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Do you find it surprising, despite comments like that, despite it, he keeps surging, and with key demographics, he keeps improving?
It's interesting, because I hoped for a long time that he was a showman and was thinking about getting attention, and that's why he was saying outrageous things. He was on the air all the time because of that. I haven't seen him move towards talking about too many specific things, although the foreign policy speech last night was a step in that direction. So I'm not surprised, because I think people are sick and tired of people that have other people write their speeches and then have them show them on teleprompter, and you just read them, and everything is poll tested. I mean, people are sick and tired of that.
Be very leery.
As you know, Bernie's the same way.
Be very leery, Ms. Sanders, the people who read the prompter. Prompter, if you can go to the next question, please. But let me get your sense of this race, and you kind of dismissed it at him, but a lot of people are already sort of handicapping if Hillary Clinton were to get the nomination. I know you still think and obviously want to see your husband get the nomination. They gave a short list of potential running mates for her, and I noticed nowhere on that list was your husband. I'm thinking to myself, well, this guy, 10 million votes, got a lot of people to the polls who never would have come to the polls, a lot of young people in particular. Shouldn't he be on a short list?
I think that it would be insulting for either of them to put the other candidate on the short list for their vice president at this moment.
Why?
I think, well, because I know that early on, one of our, Jeff Weaver, our campaign manager, you know him, he said, oh, we'd consider her as vice president. And, oh, the Clinton campaign was very upset about that. He didn't mean anything by it, but so I think they probably wouldn't do it to Bernie.
What I always think, I don't want to think cynically here. When I hear stuff like that, Jane, I think that someone in the camp put a list out and didn't include your husband. I don't know, as a dig, an oversight, either way, stupid. So I just wonder how you personally would feel if your husband were completely passed over.
I think that Bernie is doing just fine. He's not going to be passed over for anything. He's going to hopefully win the nomination. I think we have a lot of open primaries going forward. We have polls that will continue to show that he is the one that can defeat whoever the Republican nominee is, and he will have momentum. So that's our game plan. Now, if that doesn't happen, he will be pushing for the same things that he's pushing for as a senator, and keep the political revolution alive, to keep everybody honest, straightforward, and moving forward on the issues that are of import to the people, whether it's immigration reform, criminal justice reform, higher education affordability. There are a number of issues we are going to fight for as we move forward.
All right, Jane Sanders, the full interview is on our Fox Business website. We hope you peruse over there and see what it's all about.